I work out every day. But I had to. I had no choice because the doctors were telling me I was slowly, well, not slowly, killing myself.
For nearly 5 decades, Ozzy Osbourne maintained a careful public stance when discussing legendary actor Oliver Reed. Just a bit of fun, he'd say, or ancient history. But in a shocking new interview, the Prince of Darkness has finally opened up about the truth behind one of rock and film's most infamous encounters, and his unfiltered words have sent shockwaves through both industries. Here's the inside story on what pushed Osbourne to finally speak out, and why his revelations have fans worldwide stunned. During what should have been a routine promotional interview for his upcoming documentary, Osbourne was asked about his wildest moments outside of music. Instead of the usual colorful anecdotes, something unexpected happened. "Look, I've been taking the high road for 50 years when it comes to Oliver Reed," Osbourne began, his voice noticeably tensing. "Every interview, every documentary, every book, people have been telling their version of what happened, and I've stayed quiet. I'm done with that." The interviewer from Rolling Stone, clearly caught off guard, tried redirecting to safer territory, but Osbourne was determined to speak his mind. A witness later described it as decades of frustration finally boiling over. "People think they know what happened in 1974, but they've only heard the tabloid version," Osbourne continued. "The reality was much more complicated and much more dangerous for both of us." What followed was a 15-minute unfiltered account that contradicted many long-held claims about his infamous drinking contest with the notoriously hard-living actor. The interview quickly went viral, generating millions of views within hours of publication and igniting fierce debate among fans of both men. The conflict between Osbourne and Reed began in 1974, when both men were at the height of their destructive powers. Ozzy was touring with Black Sabbath, while Reed was filming Tommy, the rock opera that would briefly bring their worlds together. According to rock mythology, the pair engaged in an epic drinking contest that became the stuff of legend, a tale of excess that has been retold countless times in rock documentaries and Hollywood biopics. But according to Osbourne's new account, the reality was far darker. Everyone thinks it was just two wild men having a laugh, trying to outdrink each other. But Oliver wasn't in a good place that night. Neither was I. It wasn't a contest, it was two self-destructive people enabling each other's worst instincts. The breaking point came, according to Ozzy, when Reed's behavior became increasingly erratic. He wasn't just drunk, there was something else going on. He started threatening people, breaking things. It wasn't funny anymore. It was scary. Former Sabbath roadie Alan Henderson corroborated Osbourne's account in a separate interview. What people don't realize is how close both of them came to serious harm that night. Ozzy had to be treated for alcohol poisoning afterward, and Reed nearly got into a physical altercation with the hotel security. It wasn't the glamorous rock and roll moment people imagine. The exact details of what transpired remain the most contentious issue between Osbourne's account and popular legend. For decades, the story has grown to include everything from destroyed hotel rooms to motorcycle stunts. In his new interview, Osbourne addressed these claims directly. Did we trash a hotel room? Yes. Did Oliver try to ride a motorcycle through the lobby? Absolutely not. Did we both end up in hospital? Yes, but not for the reasons people think. But Osbourne challenged the characterization of the night as harmless fun. What nobody talks about is the aftermath. I spiraled even deeper into addiction after that night. And Oliver, well, his struggles are well documented. That night wasn't a badge of honor, it was a warning sign both of us ignored. Former Tommy production assistant Margaret Wilson offered perspective. The crew was genuinely concerned for both of them. This wasn't just rock star behavior, it was two men with serious problems pushing each other to dangerous limits. Over the decades, this story has been retold in countless rock documentaries, with each version becoming more outlandish than the last, generating significant revenue for publishers and filmmakers. In the early days of rock mythology, these stories took on lives of their own, explains music historian Brian Coleman. They were creating legends, not documenting reality. That lack of accuracy made later disputes almost inevitable when the stakes grew to involve legacy and reputation. After their infamous encounter, Osbourne and Reed continued on parallel paths of self-destruction before finding different forms of redemption. Ozzy was fired from Black Sabbath in 1979 due to his substance abuse before rebuilding his career as a solo artist and later finding sobriety and renewed fame through reality television. Reed continued his tumultuous acting career, with his drinking affecting his work until his death in 1999 during the filming of Gladiator. In his interview, Osbourne acknowledged Reed's talents. Oliver was a brilliant actor when he was focused. Oliver. Women in Love, The Devils, untouchable performances. No one can take that away from him. But Osbourne also expressed frustration with how their encounter has been glamorized. At some point, we have to stop celebrating destruction. Both of us nearly died multiple times because of our addictions. There's nothing romantic about it. Industry insiders note that the Osbourne-Reed encounter helped shape the mythology of rock excess. These stories created a template, explains classic rock editor Scott Rowley. When Mötley Crüe or Guns N' Roses came along, they had a blueprint for how rock stars were supposed to behave. The Ozzy Reed story was part of that blueprint. This cultural influence extended beyond music. Reed's wild man persona influenced a generation of actors, notes film critic Mark Kermode. The idea that great art comes from chaos. That myth has damaged countless lives in both industries. One of the most revealing aspects of Osbourne's interview was his discussion of the emotional toll the decades-long mythologizing has taken. People think it's just about two blokes getting hammered, but there's a human cost, Osbourne said. That night was a symptom of how sick we both were. Oliver died still battling his demons. I nearly joined him many times. Osbourne spoke candidly about how the repeated glorification of the story affected him personally. Every time someone brings it up like it was this great moment, it reminds me of the darkest period of my life. I tried not to take it personally, but after decades of it, yeah, it hurts. The rock icon also revealed that there had been attempts at reconciliation before Reed's death that the public never saw. I reached out to him in the 90s when I got sober. We had a good talk. He was trying to clean up too, in his way. Those moments were real, but then the old stories would come up again in the press, and it would all feel pointless. Actor Keith Allen, who maintained friendships with both men, offered perspective. These guys had more in common than people realize. Both working-class lads who found fame, both struggled with substances, both survived things that killed their friends. It's tragic they couldn't find more peace with each other before Oliver passed. The entertainment community's reaction to Osbourne's revelations has been mixed, with fans and colleagues taking sides in a debate that spans generations. Director Ken Russell, who worked with both men, had expressed before his own passing, as someone who knew both Ozzy and Oliver, it's hard to see their relationship reduced to one night of excess. They were both complex, talented men with demons they fought their entire lives. Filmmaker Alex Winter took a more philosophical view. Every rock documentary and biopic has included some version of this story. It's not just their story, it's become part of how we view the relationship between creativity and destruction. On social media, the reaction has been predictably divided, with hashtags like Team Ozzy and hashtag Team Reed trending within hours of the interview's release. Older fans debated minute details of events from 5 decades ago, while younger listeners expressed surprise at the depth of emotion still attached to the ancient encounter. Entertainment Weekly's James Montgomery notes that this generational aspect makes the story unique. We now have rock fans in their 60s who witnessed this mythology develop from the beginning, alongside teenagers discovering these figures for the first time through streaming. That's why this still matters. It's living history. Industry veterans see the Osbourne-Reed conflict as emblematic of deeper issues in entertainment, particularly regarding how substance abuse is portrayed and enabled. What happened with Ozzy and Oliver was unfortunately common, explains former music executive Danny Goldberg. The industry not only tolerated self-destruction, it often encouraged it because it made good copy. Sharon Osbourne, who later helped Ozzy achieve sobriety, had previously addressed the context. The entertainment business was different then. There were no interventions, no rehab breaks. You were expected to perform no matter what state you were in. The financial stakes have only grown. In 2023, analysts estimated the value of rock mythology in documentaries, biopics, and memoirs at over $800 million annually, with stories of excess accounting for a significant portion of content. What makes this situation unique is the longevity, notes media analyst Jennifer Carson. These stories have generated revenue for 50 years across books, documentaries, biopics, and streaming content. Few cultural moments maintain that kind of commercial relevance across generations. After decades of restraint, what prompted Osbourne to finally speak out? Industry insiders point to several converging factors. Ozzy has been through significant health challenges recently, observes one longtime associate who requested anonymity. His Parkinson's diagnosis, multiple surgeries, these experiences have him reevaluating his life and legacy. Perhaps carrying this old burden no longer made sense. The recent increase in documentaries and biopics about the era may have been another catalyst. In recent months, several productions have featured dramatized versions of the Osbourne-Reed encounter, including comments that Ozzy felt misrepresented the reality. There's a pattern where these stories get more exaggerated with each retelling, notes one veteran music journalist. Those portrayals always generate headlines, but there's a cumulative effect on the people who actually lived it. Anyone who knows Ozzy knows he's not calculating with media, says longtime friend Zach Wilde. If he said it, it's because he felt it in that moment, not because he was plotting some PR strategy. Oliver Reed's family's initial response to Osbourne's interview came via a statement from his son Mark Reed, who posted a brief but measured comment. After 50 years, Ozzy finally decides to set the record straight. My father isn't here to give his version. There are 3 sides to every story. Ozzy's side, my father's side, and the truth. The Reed family followed this with a longer statement to select media outlets, challenging several specific points from Osbourne's account. Ozzy talks about reaching out when he got sober, but doesn't mention that my father had made similar attempts years earlier. He talks about the night as if my father was the instigator, when by most accounts they were equal participants. Mark Reed also addressed the personal dimension. My father made peace with his past before his death. He acknowledged his struggles with alcohol and the impact it had on his career and relationships. But he shouldn't be defined solely by his darkest moments, any more than Ozzy should. Industry observers note that despite the disagreements, both sides stopped short of complete character assassination. There's still a level of respect there, observes actor Ray Winstone, who worked with Reed. They're acknowledging the talent and the struggles, not just focusing on one wild night. The Reed family is currently working with a production company on an authorized biography of the actor, with Mark Reed reportedly addressing the situation briefly during recent interviews, telling journalists, "My father was more than one night of excess. He was a brilliant actor, a loving father, and a complex man. That's the legacy I'm interested in preserving." As the entertainment community digests these revelations, questions remain about what this means for how we remember both men and their infamous encounter. This could go one of 2 ways, predicts filmmaker Stephen Woolley. Either this is the final word that helps demythologize a destructive period, or it's just another chapter in the ongoing glamorization of excess. Getting everything out in the open can sometimes be the first step to a more honest conversation. The possibility of a more nuanced portrayal in future documentaries now seems possible. Several filmmakers have already reached out to both the Osbourne and Reed families about potential projects that would present a more balanced view of the encounter and its aftermath. Entertainment Weekly's Montgomery sees potential for cultural healing. Both Ozzy and Oliver were victims of an industry that profited from their self-destruction. Recognizing that could be the foundation for a more honest portrayal of both men, even if Reed is no longer here to tell his side. The Osbourne-Reed relationship remains one of entertainment's most complex and enduring legends. A story of excess, addiction, talent, and parallel struggles spanning more than 5 decades. As both legacies continue to evolve, fans can only hope that these cultural icons might someday be remembered for their considerable talents rather than their darkest moments. Until then, the saga continues to unfold. 50 years later, the performances still resonate, but the human cost speaks even louder, observes Kermode. These two men created art that changed their industries forever. The rest is just noise. What's your take on Ozzy Osbourne's decision to finally break his silence about Oliver Reed? Do you think it will change how we view their infamous encounter? Share your thoughts in the comments below.